everyone, this is Adrienne from Bows and Clothes. Here is my new backpack that I'm making. I used a MavPack from Fairy Tale Prints when I used the 120 size, and this is the little piece that I had left over. In addition to the 120 MavPack that we bought, we're also using an 8x10 coordinating sheet to make these pieces. These are your attachments for your straps. Here we have our gusset pieces, and up here is our zipper panel liner and the exterior vinyl. This will be done in the hoop, and I'm going to show you that later. But right here we have the back panel, and these are our pieces that are going to get stitched into the design. This is done in the hoop, but I'm showing it separately just so you can see in this video right now how they come together. In a minute, I'm going to show you how they actually go on the machine, and you'll be able to see it stitch. The stitched exterior vinyl for the backing is the template that you're going to use to cut the other pieces. Once you finish stitching them in the hoop, you cut them out 1/4 of an inch outside of your stitching. Here's my liners and my front panel. Notice the small indented stitches on the vinyl panel. This shows you where to cut your little 1/8 inch notches on the liner and vinyl. You want to place your panels on the lining fabric and cut 2 panels to the same size, and then you cut out your vinyl panel the same way. I went ahead and stitched the first step so that we don't have to waste time watching it stitch. I have my 120 panel from Fairy Tale Prints, and I'm just going to put it in the center. You can see that it has a little bit of extra room all around it. And then I'm going to take it back to my machine. If you want to tape it down or hot glue the corners, you can do that too. And we're going to stitch step 2. So this went all the way around doing the triple stitch, so it makes it easier to tear. Step 3, I am going to stitch in a different color because I want to be able to show you this on the video, and it's just a little bit easier, although I'm realizing that green was not the easiest choice to see. So you can see it did just this section right here. I have my little pieces that are the in the hoop pieces. This is my top that will go there. Now it's doing the side for these side pieces. Once this is stitched, you can just barely see the green because I did it in a different color. And here's your pieces. You can tell this is my back just because it has the not quite as perfect. So I want them, they'll be going like this when you have them done. So they have to go right side down, and you want to line it up right past where it has stitched. And I'm just going to tape this in place like this. And same with this one. I love these little teeny markers. I want my stitching lined up right on top of those markers and just over. And you'll see when it stitches that these green lines will be right where the needle goes, where it stitches over. And you can see that that's not perfectly straight. I'm going to do that a redo. We'll tape it a little bit more. I want my thread overhanging this just a teeny bit, just to make sure that none of this stitching gets stuck. I'm going to do a little more taping job because I've realized this scoochie's just a tad. And then we're going to go back and stitch our last step. can see here that it went right along the original edge. And I could have scooshed this one over that little teeny tiny bit. It was not absolutely perfect, but possibly I didn't cut exactly completely even. It's just that teeny bit. You'll never see it when you finish the back. Alrighty, so now we have our pieces all in, and we'll cut this out all the way around here and be ready for the next part of our assembly. And here is my panel all cut out. I cut it 1/4 inch outside of the stitching, and we are going to use this for our template to cut out our other panel pieces. So here we are going to sew the zipper panel. I have my pieces, my vinyl pieces, and these are the interfaced lining pieces, and my zipper pull and my zipper. I stitched the first step on my machine already, and now I need my zipper to go in between. I want a little more space over here because this is going to fray no matter what I do a little, and we will heat seal that. You know, I might as well do that right now, right? We'll heat seal our edges now because I tend to forget later. But I struggle to get my zipper pull on, so I want a little extra space. I overlapped it by a little bit over here, and I have about an inch-ish over here. You can tape this in space, down. Sorry, wow. I'm going to glue it because I really like my hot glue gun, and my machine doesn't really care what it goes through. But if your machine cares at all and you're not comfortable, no reason not to just use tape, unless you're like me and you really like your glue gun. I'm going to glue it a little here just to make sure this little guy stays right in between the lines. There we go. Now we're going to take it to our machine. With my hoop on my machine, I am now stitching, whoopsie, the second step. And it's just going to tack my zipper down. We take our hoop off our machine and we're going to flip it over, not upside down, side to side. So we keep our top on the top and our bottom on the bottom. We'll take one of our little interface pieces and we're going to line it up to the top stitched line. And we want to make it in the center. And we're going to tape this little guy in place. So we're taping this all down. And now we're going to put it back on our hoop machine. We're stitching step 3 here. With our hoop off of our machine, we're going to flip it over. You can see that it's stitched down along the top. We're going to take our tape off and we're going to fold it up. Oopsie. And a nice little crease here. If you have one of those little irons, this is a great time to iron this so you have a nice crisp fold there. Don't pull it too tight. You want a little tiny bit of slack, otherwise your stitches won't catch. With that tape down, we're taking our second piece, and this one goes face down in the middle of our line, and it goes to this bottom line, and we're going to tape this one in place like we did the other one. And after this, it will go back to our machine. Our hoop is on our machine, and now we are stitching step 4. We've taken our hoop off of our machine. We're going to flip it over. Whoopsie. Avoid hitting your light if needed. We're going to unsticky this one. And just like before, if you have an iron and you want to be able to have a perfect folded crease right here, you can iron this. I don't have my iron warmed up at the moment, and I have lost a bunch of my tape. So I'm going to tape this down just like this. I need more tape. I'm gonna hot glue just a little teeny tiny bit. So make sure it's not too tight again, just like you did before. I want that right there. All right, we have this, and now we're going to flip it back over, and we're gonna line up our straight edges, and that edge is not as straight as I would like, so I'm gonna go with this side. And we can tape it or glue a teeny bit down. I'm just gonna glue down because it does peel up, and I have much more faith in my hot glue gun than my sticky tape. And then this one, again, right up to the edges of our zipper teeth. And we'll tape this one down too. And I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. It's not quite there. There we go. That makes me happier. All right, and back to our machine. At our machine, we are stitching the next step, which is step 5. And you can see it's going to go right along, stitching all of this down, the bottom and the top. And then it'll do the other side also. We have one more step. I've taken this off of the machine. Hit my lamp as I tried to flip it over. Our backing looks like this. You can see it's all stitched down. You'll notice that it doesn't go to the edge because we want to take this, our edges, and peel them back and tape them down, because on this design, we don't want our liner inside of our vinyl. It makes it a little bit bulky for a lot of stitching and for it to lay flat in the end. So our vinyl and our liner are actually separate in this design. Just pull that right off where I had my hot glue. So this is going to stitch that last little bit without catching the liner in it. And this you do want to pull tight against the thread here, unlike when you did this middle part. Once we have this all taped down, comes our zipper pull. We are going to flip our hoop back over, and I have a little bit of room here, and I'm going to insert my zipper pull. There we go. And I'm going to zip it to the center. Back on our machine, we are ready for the last step. You'll notice it goes right down along my zipper. And now we have finished stitching. I have my hoop off of my machine. I'm going to tear this out and flip it over. As you can see where it's stitched right up to it. When you fold this flat again, these are loose, so you can stitch them without catching them in your vinyl and stitch your vinyl separately. That's later in the pattern, you'll hear all about it. There's our backing. We're going to remove all of our stabilizer and we'll be ready for the next set of our purse. I have removed all of our stabilizer and folded those down. And now I just want to trim this up a little. You can see this is not exactly flushed with this, so we'll trim up anything. And I'm going to cut these ends just about 1/8 of an inch. Wow, that was not straight. I'm going to cut it straight this time. 1/8 of an inch. Same with this one. And then our next step is going to be our little zipper pull things, zipper tabs, not pulls. This you want to line up to the edge of here, right in the middle, and you only want it on the vinyl. So it's in the middle, up to the vinyl. Oopsie, my little clips are not open. And you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch that. This is what it looks like on the back. Do not catch your fabric. And we're going to do it again for the other side also, right in the middle. And I'm going to take that to my regular sewing machine and stitch on each side. Since I trimmed my zipper, I'm going to go ahead and heat seal it back. Oopsie, get that out. This is in our center still, and we still have our fabric folded back. From my previous, all I did was take off my little clippy guy from my previous step, put it on my machine, and I'm just going to stitch right along here. Just enough to hold it in place for the next step. And then I'm going to repeat this for the other side. We're going to keep these bent down, and we're taking our big gusset piece and lining it up right in the middle. And then we're going to stitch, whoopsie, not catching our fabric, whoopsie, which I have just done again, straight across here. And this one I'm using a 3/8 inch allowance. And then we're going to repeat this for the other side. Our gusset now looks like this. These are loose still. Now, depending on how close you got to your zipper teeth, I try to get close, but you can see I missed just a slightly bit right there. This is minorly adjustable so that you can have room for error, as you see, like I did. So this is a little longer. I want to lay this in my very center, and I'm going to trim this straight along here to be the exact same width as my gusset is. It's just a little adjustment on your vinyl because we are all going to have it closer or further away, and it's easier to trim than it is to add to it, of course, we all know. And now I'm ready to top stitch right along here. Again, we're going to make sure that our fabric is folded down. We're going to, see, I still missed that one. Maybe I should tape these, that might be better. And we're just going to top stitch right along here. I really wish my machine would tie the little knot thing, but it doesn't. So I have to go with the back and forth method to tie at the end. There we go. We're going to repeat for the other side now. Once we have both of these sides top stitched, we're moving on to our fabric liner. Here's our liner, and we are going to line it up with these edges right here. It fits just right. And if you want to pin it, that's a great idea, or clip it to hold it in place, and then take it to your sewing machine. I'm just going to bend this back and stitch, see, a 3/8 inch seam, clip right across here. There we go. And now we are going to open it up. We do have this little gap here. That's fine. We'll worry about that later. And we're going to repeat it for the other side. We're going to lay it flat so there's no loop or anything in it. And repeat the process for this side. In my directions, I do our vinyl panels first on the vinyl. I kind of think it might be easier to do the inner panels or the liner first. It doesn't really matter. You're going to do them both the same way. So whichever way you want to try going first is great. But you're going to line up your little notches that you cut with your side seam. And we're going to start pinning. Those are your little markers to let you know that you are going to fit, doing great, or you need to adjust slightly. There's one on each side, of course. And this one, we're gonna go right there. And we're gonna pin. Oopsie, of course, the first thing I did was wiggle it. And now we're just pinning it only to fabric, vinyl goes to vinyl. And we're gonna start clipping. I use the word pin, but it's clip obviously because I'm using clips. And we go all the way around clipping and make sure that this lines up perfectly all the way around. If you miss a little, that's because you didn't take enough of a seam allowance, or you took too much of a seam allowance, and just adjust it slightly. You might need to go a little bit thicker of how much you take in. And I'll pin this around and show you my end results. Once I have it all pinned and measured out exactly evenly dispersed, I'm going to take it to my machine to sew a 3/8 inch seam going all the way around, making sure I don't catch my vinyl. So I'm just picking a spot to start, and I'm bending my vinyl down. And I have this, and I'm going to just kind of gently pull as I stitch and take my clips off. You can see this is a little bunched right there, so I'm just going to use my fingers and flatten it out. And I always want to end with my needle in to help hold it down, just keeping it there as I'm kind of wiggling a little roughly. Keeping it lined up, going right around. Again, moving my vinyl so that it is not in my way. I'm going to keep on going all the way around until the end. And there we go to where we started. Take this off, and you can see one side has been stitched. We're ready for the next. Now that we have this side done, we're going to turn it over and do this side. And we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Line up our little marks and clip. Same with this side. And clip. And then same thing, we're going to go all the way around the bag and clip it all like we did before. We have it all clipped, dispersed all around. Now on this side, we want to make an opening so that we're going to be able to turn it right side out. So we are going to leave a gap around here when we stitch. So I will be stopping back on that side, and I'm going to start over here as I sew. You're still using your 3/8 inch seam allowance. Oopsie, and I've gone a little bit crooked now that I've taken out my pin without watching what I was doing. We're going to stretch that little guy back out and go around. The corners are always a little rough. You want to use your fingers to try to press them straight as you go. And I've heard people say that they like to clip their corners. I'm not that brave because I've cut them too much and had a boo-boo, and that's really frustrating. So do whatever you are comfortable with. Like right here, I want to make sure that this is out of the way from underneath. And as I go, I'm just going to pull my vinyl back the opposite way so that I don't catch any of it. And I'm going to keep going around here. I'm going to press that down as I take it off this time. Now that I'm coming around the very bottom, here's where I started. I want to leave at least 2 or 3 inches opening because I need to turn this whole thing inside of it. So I'm going to stop about in front of this little purple, pink, I'm not sure what color that is, but I'm going to stop in front of that little guy. Now that I get to this little one, you can see my seam goes from here. See, I'm going to flatten that out. just gonna back up a couple times. So now I have this much that is open to be able to turn my bag inside out, or right side out, however you look at it. We're ready to move on to our vinyl panels. We have it with our zipper going down this way. We'll take it right side up and line up our little stitched with the edge here. And we're gonna clippy him in place. And same with the other side. Line up our, where'd it go? There it is, right there to this. Oopsie, I missed. Clippy. And then we're gonna do the same thing, go all the way around with our clips, making it all line up and evenly dispersed as we go around it. I have it all pinned. If you have taken a larger seam allowance than you meant to, and your turn under job to top stitch was a little off, you might have to round it a little bit more in your corners to make it all line up. That's fine. You'll just have a slightly more rounded corners. You'll never see anything different. Or you might need to pull it out and get 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch smaller seam allowance if you took a really teeny tiny one and this your gusset ended up longer. But here's where you can adjust it, make sure that it all fits going all the way around when you use your clips. Now we're just going to take it to our machine, and you can go either direction in how you want to do it, to panel down or gusset down. I'm going to go with the panel down this time. I'm not sure why. If you like it the other way, do it the other way. We're just going to start stitching. You can see where I got a little rounder right there to make mine fit perfectly. That's fine. Make sure our fabric stays out of the way. And you can see it gets a little thicker as I go over our pieces. That works out fine. If you want to snippy these, some people really like that method. I'm always afraid I'm going to snip too much, so I really don't like to snip. But you can snip these to make it lay flatter. I'm just going to keep curving around as I go. Just slightly off, so I'm going to move my gusset up just a little to keep a nice straight line here. Now I finished going all the way around. You can see my original stitching is inside here from where it was in the hoop. And we have a little bit where it's off as I rounded it, going around just to make it all line up perfectly because my seam allowances were not perfect. And if you don't do it exact, that's okay. Try to be exact as you can, but of course there's little ways to make everything fit properly. Moving on to our last panel. Because we have the zipper, we are able to turn this without needing a gap on this side. So we are good, and we are going to stitch this closed just like we did the other side. Line up your little notches with the little ridge right there where you stitched and top stitched. And then we're going to go all the way around, pinning evenly. We've got it all clipped now, and we are going to take it to our machine to stitch all the way around with a 3/8 inch seam, just like the previous sides. This is a little more effort in it because you got to clear all the vinyl that you've added. I'm gonna start there and just squishy this bulk down on the other side. Start stitching around. Oopsie, I meant to leave my needle in. Here I am coming around towards the end. Still going, taking my clips out as I go. Making sure my liner is not getting caught. to where I started. We have it all stitched. We are going to do a couple things. Where's my hole? Right there. I'm gonna turn this through here. It goes all the way through our opening. Just keep squishing it through. You can heat it up in the dryer to make your vinyl more pliable. Otherwise, you can go with my method of just keep squishing. Obviously, if you have a bigger hole, that's easier to pull it all through. But you don't want it so big that it's hard to stitch on the curves later. Our zipper opens. Our bag looks like this so far. Now, at this point, you want to make sure that you didn't miss anything. None of this is missing. You didn't have a spot where, oh my goodness, I went very, very crooked and I didn't stitch it, because once you stitch this up, then you're kind of committed to it's mostly done, and you don't want to have to go back and try to hand stitch or try to salvage something you boo-booed on. So I'm quite pleased with this. So now I'm going to fold my liner in just like this, and I want to stitch across the top. This one I did 4 inches wide here. I was aiming for 2 or 3 inches minimum. 4 inches is fantastic if you can get it. On the smaller sizes, you're not going to get it. You're only going to get 2 to 3 inches. But then on the smaller sizes, oopsie, you also have less vinyl in it because it's smaller. But the larger this is, the easier it is to turn right side out like that. And now we're going to take this to the machine and stitch just a straight stitch across here. Just going to stitch this close just right along where I folded it in at. There we go. This is stitch closed now. We're going to shove our bag in, and as you can see, you're going to have a little spot right here on either side where it is not attached, because that was our little space to be able to turn it right side out. If this is going to bother you, and I would say most people it probably will, but if it doesn't, leave it. You're happy, that's fantastic. If it does, you're just going to hold it down and stitch right across here, just 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches to keep this, and it'll tack this down on either side. So then the only spot that's not stitched is this little teeny tiny bit right there, but unless you try to stab a pencil in that, you're never gonna know that. So we'll take this to the machine to stitch on either side, that little area. If you have a machine where this comes off, this might make it easier. If you don't, it is not a big deal. You can wiggle it on somehow, I'm sure of it. And I'm just going to look at this and push this flat underneath and stitch. I'm aiming for just going right over my original stitching here. So when I pull it off, not bad, lined up fairly well. I'm going to trim my threads, and you can see that it tacked it down on the inside. So now you no longer have a hole. I'll trim my threads and do the other side next. I cut my webbing 20 inches. I'm using 3/4 inch webbing because that's what I happen to have. Unfortunately, I meant to use 1 inch. I do not have 1 inch. And I'm just going to loop it through, turn it under a little bit, and loop it again. And I'm gonna put it on my machine, see, and stitch it shut. I'm gonna stitch this several times, because this is going to be under a bit of stress. And then I'm going to repeat. You're going to make sure they're heat sealed, of course. Thread it through, turn it under. See? And I want to make sure that these are the same size. That one is too big. Right. Oopsie, little teeny bit. There. And then I'm going to stitch this shut. And I should have changed my thread to, whoops, I'm missing my button, to pink. I didn't. You want to just match your thread. So we've got our bag this far. We're going to lay it down flat and take another 20 piece, come from the top, bend it in and then over so that we can sew it. So that way the seamed part where it's folded will be on the inside. And we just want to go about 1 inch or so. And I have heat sealed these. Make sure you do that because this kind of webbing frays. And I'll sew this across. And if you want to do some sort of cute little Xy type thing, that's fantastic. I was not being that fancy on mine. In fact, I was too lazy to even match my thread. And then we're going to go this way. Pull it flat to get it down. I've put my adjuster on. And I just bought these on Amazon. It comes up through the bottom, down through here. And I want this flat. And we are going to just loop it right through here. And same concept, turn it under a little bit more than that. And stitch it. And that will make our little loopy loop. And then we're going to repeat it to the other side and make sure that we have our distances all the same of how far we fold under, where we sew it, so that all of our straps are equal. Oopsie. And here we go. So go on just like this. And we will move to the next one now. My bag is finished. Here's my little backpack. And these straps, I did all 20 inches. If you're doing it more for a little kiddo, then you might want to go more 16 to 18 inches on this. Use your best judgment. This is obviously going to fit a larger person. Mom was wearing it. She's a little skinny mini, but even still, she is an adult skinny mini. So on these straps, you can cut them shorter, of course. You can also just hem them under if you would like to, and make sure that you heat seal them. You can put the cute little felties on the end, however it is that you want to do. And you can, of course, avoid the straps completely if you use the claspy things, the lobster clasp, however it is that you want. There's all kinds of different hardwares that you can use. But just adjust this to however long you want. Cut it, hem it, heat seal it. We're good. And there we go. You can see I still need to squishy mine out, but because it is thinner and they are not attached, like my liner is separate, it makes this much easier than the thicker stuff to be able to turn right side on and have a nice crisp seam. There's all kinds of additions you can do, of course. There's a pocket in the hoop where you can add an inside pocket that's in my embroidery shop. You can use the tabs on these if you want these more stitched like this and finished. You can add a handle. There's so many things that you can do on this cute little bag. But here we go. It is finished. I hope you get to make one and you love it. And of course, my panel came from Fairy Tale Prints. Morgan printed them for me. I love the dragon. She has a whole series. There's a unicorn and a, you know what? I don't know what else there is, but I know, oh, there's an owl. So you can go to Fairy Tale Prints and get all kinds of adorable stuff that fit these. Hope you love it. I love it. And talk to you guys later. Bye.